Hey, what's up, everyone? I wanted to talk about how personally I have a very close connection with animals, and I wanted to share something very interesting. I've never shared this online before. My parents know it. Mama especially knows it because she's witnessed it in person very, very closely when she's around me, and how I will literally talk to animals. So I wish I could have videoed this, but I didn't have my phone on me or a tablet or anything at the time. I didn't like how the cats were doing. The cats were Simba and Tom were fighting consistently. So then they also kept Rosie away. They'd keep her away from the porch, and I was like, that's not right. And then Midnight would have her kittens be all tough and brave and act like they're the head honcho, and she would push away the cats that we had here, that we got from this person that's needed to get rid of their cats, and they got rid of Rosie and Tom, these two cats. That's what I named them, and they're two mostly calico cats, and they started fighting a lot. Well, because they all wanted to be dominant and dominant of the porch, dominant of the area. And Simba had been picking fights with Tom, basically, and I said, listen, I told him, come here, I want to talk to you. And I laid down there in the driveway, and I laid down and I talked to Simba, and he was just like, and then he laid down there, and I said, no, seriously, I want to be serious for a moment. And I talked to him for about 2 minutes, and I told him, I said, I love you just as much. And I said, I said, I want to treat all of you equally. And I said, you are the head honcho, you're still my favorite. You're the original cat. Because he is the original cat, the bloodline of all of our cats from the past. And so, we talked. I talked to him. And then he looked at me and just looked. And I talked to him for a long time. And then here come Midnight behind me. She came up from behind me and was telling me, was acting like talking to Simba, and then looked like, what's wrong? And then Simba walked over there and kind of smacked at her a little bit, like, and looked at her like, really? Like, don't be, don't be causing all these fights, because she wanted to be the head honcho, he wanted to be head honcho, and it was all because Tom had gotten all over her kittens, just kind of fighting her kittens because they were trying to invade upon what he felt was his space, his territory. But long story short, I talked to the cats basically. I talked to Simba, and then he told Rosie to stop. I mean, not Rosie. Rosie is the sweetest cat ever. He told Midnight to stop what she was doing, basically. And then Midnight looked like, what? And I said, I want you to tell the other cats. This is true. I mean, I literally said, I want you to tell the other cats what I told you. Simba sat down next to Midnight for about 10 minutes. They were meowing and sitting there looking at each other, and they kind of talking amongst each other. You could tell because how animals communicate. He conveyed what I told him to her. And then she went and talked to each one of her 4 kittens. Every one of them. She went and talked to each one of them. She was like, that little communication they do. And the kittens were, yeah. They were communicating. And she conveyed what I told Simba. And all of a sudden, her kittens stopped acting so, macho and abrasive, and they got along. They tried to love on Tom. I said, I'll feed you all equally, separately, independently, and all that, like Timon and Pumbaa, together. That was an episode of Timon and Pumbaa where a meteor falls out of the sky, and he said, we're going to help each other, but separately, independently, and all that. That's what Pumbaa said. It was the adventures. Timon and Pumbaa's Wild Adventures. You'll have to look that up. But they did. They communicated. They communicated the message. Now they're all getting along, and keeping their distance, but sometimes they'll love on each other and they'll get along. They'll mostly get along. What's interesting is they use this litter box, especially if it's raining, on the porch. And Tom and Rosie taught basically Midnight saw that, well, I'm supposed to do my business in there. So she does that. She does her business on the porch in the litter box, which is better than having to train them to do that. I mean, I'm glad that was just amazing. That was a miracle, a lucky situation where they just learned to just use a litter box on their own automatically. The kittens too, since they were little. But they're great cats. They behave very well mostly, and they don't cause any problems or trouble most of the time. But that was the only trouble I had. And literally, the bottom line is I communicated with Simba. He conveyed it to Midnight. Midnight was listening behind me, and then he talked to her like, "What is your problem?" And then you stirred things up. And then he communicated with her. Then she communicated to her kittens. And then I can literally tell an animal to come over here and then go over there. Okay, now lay down. Now, all the way. And they'll just listen. Or just tell an animal, you, go. And they'll listen. And that's just the way it is. Or you, come here now and sit down. And they'll literally do that. I can have full-on conversations with animals. And birds, they'll just go out of their way to start hollering and hollering. I think the birds actually have gone south this year because I don't see any birds anywhere. It's the first time birds have gone south in a long time. Maybe that means a harsh winter is coming. Winter is coming. Game of Thrones reference. I've actually never watched that show, but I did reference it. Anyway, yeah. Birds will just holler at me and I'll say, "Okay, birds, I hear you. You can silence now." And they'll go silent. Mama's heard that I don't know how many times when I'll do that. "Okay, you can be quiet now." And they'll just go silent. So it's just pretty amazing. They'll go out of their way to speak to me and just say, "Here I am." The birds will. And the animals will. These cows wanted to play with me in the field that were next to me along the fence, and they were communicating. There's this one older cow, and she always, from a distance, when I come out of the house, even though she's like way into the hill, you have to have binoculars to see her, or a monocular device to see her on the hill. That's how far away we are from her. But she'll actually go out of her way to like look for me or know when I'm there and look at me. And these animals, they communicate and understand me a lot of times. So I just thought I would share that. I feel really weird all of a sudden. Hope and pray that I feel better. I feel really nauseated and man, I don't know what happened. Oh boy. Anyway, I don't feel right. I gotta end the video here. I decided to tell that story. He conveyed it to her, and she conveyed it to each of her kittens, and then they all started acting better. Now they're all good.